Welcome to Voices of Resilience, part of the Iron Sharpening Iron universe, where stories of strength, healing, and hope come to life. I'm your host, Davina Lyons, also known as Mama Lyons, and this space is dedicated to amplifying the voices of those who've turned pain into purpose. Each episode, we dive into real conversations about courage, self discovery, and rising stronger than ever. So lean in, take a deep breath, and be inspired by the incredible voices of resilience, because every story has the power to heal. Welcome back to Voices of Resilience, where we honor the stories that shape us and the courage it takes to rise anyway. I am Davina Lyons, also known as Mama Lyons. Today's guest is an artist whose voice carries more than melody. It carries survival, legacy, and healing. I'm honored to welcome Aria the Vocalist, an artist, singer, songwriter, mother, and student whose journey is rooted in resilience. Aria is not only building a music career, she's rebuilding a life. As a survivor of abuse, family trauma, tragedy, and long term mental health struggles, her story is one of survival in the truest sense of the word. In 2021, she nearly lost her life after being attacked by her mentally ill brother. And yet she continues to choose healing. She continues to create. She continues to rise. After the recent loss of her mother, her son's grandmother, Aria and her son are now on a deeply personal journey of reconnecting with their Cuban heritage and carrying forward her mother's legacy. Her mother's story as a Cuban refugee in Florida City, Florida, lives on not just in memory, but in Aria's music, her writing, and her determination to tell that story with honesty and honor. Aria openly shares her lifelong battle with mental health challenges, low self esteem, and the pain of being bullied as a child. But she also carries a powerful belief. As long as she remains honest with herself and extends forgiveness inward, she can achieve whatever she dreams. Beyond music, Aria plans to study neuroscience and aging, turning her lived experience into deeper understanding and service. This conversation is about surviving what could have destroyed you. It's about creativity as medicine. It's about motherhood, legacy, culture, and refusing to let trauma write the final chapter. Aria, welcome to Voices of Resilience. We are honored to hold space for your voice and your story today. Hello.
Hello. Wow. Thank you so much for that introduction. I got teary eyed.
It's
Thank
okay. It's okay. There's a lot, and I am so grateful that you're going to share with not only myself but with all of our listeners, because I think there's so much that people are going to learn from you, and I think it's healing for both you and for our listeners. I know just in the short time that I've gotten to know you, and I'm going to share. I said I wasn't going to, but actually I'm going to share that you are the parent of a former student, and
Yes.
I I was so blessed to get to know you. Your energy has always been very positive, and you know coming in as a parent, being very supportive, and so I'm glad I got to know you and spend more time. And here we are today, and so let's just get into it. I
Yes.
want to hear your story, and I know you're ready to share. Um,
Thank you.
So let's just start out with your music, because it carries so much emotion. I had an opportunity to listen to you on YouTube, and I know one time, even when you dropped into the class, it was awesome. Uh,
Yeah.
so when did you realize that music would become part of your healing?
Well, it's interesting. I wasn't sure music would be part of my healing because I first began writing poetry, and poetry was a way for me to get the words out that were on the inside of me on a page, and it was
Mhm.
so freeing for me, and I was so intrigued by words as an elementary student is when I started writing poetry. And I even had my poem published in the newspaper where I lived when I was in kindergarten, actually about a puppy. And so my mom was very proud of that. But it was almost as if while I was in class, I had these words coming to my mind and I had to write them down. And sometimes I would get in trouble for it because I'd be writing poetry instead of doing my work.
Right.
So my first expression was actually poetry. And even though I didn't know I could sing as a young girl, I was just listening to the music and singing along. It wasn't until my friends said, "Hey, you sound good." I didn't have the awareness that I have a voice,
Right.
and that it sounded good. I mean, I just didn't connect the dots, right? So for me, my early 20s is when I got on a stage for the first time as like in front of an audience. But when I was in fifth grade, I did perform in front of my elementary schools and sang an Aaliyah song. So, both those experiences were really, they really opened up something for me. And it was just that moment of the open mic setting, right? And being in a cafe and kind of like the vibe of the poetry feel. And I'm an adult now, I'm 20, like I
Mhm.
can I can speak my mind. I can invent who I want to be. I can share my thoughts with an audience that's listening. So that really moved me. And so that was the beginning, I would say. I didn't, like I said, I didn't know I could sing. It took me, it's been a reprogramming because of the bullying I went through, that I'll share in, later.
Mhm.
Um, the abuse that happened and things that took place kind of made me see myself in the wrong light, and it distorted my self-image. So even though I had these gifts, I couldn't recognize them
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I was, my outside reality was not reflecting that to me. So that's why, I feel now my music, what it represents to me now is absolute healing because I'm talking to myself in my songs.
Mhm.
First, I'm talking to me and I'm speaking in a way to me like I need to hear me. So my songs now that I write and put out on Spotify and iTunes and everything, that is a diary and a therapy session now,
Mm.
you know
Mhm.
so
That's
yeah.
a great way to look at it. And I know in the intro, I mentioned a lot that, yes, I do want you to share as much as you're comfortable with. And
Sure.
and I want to say for anyone listening who may feel triggered in any way about hearing about trauma, just understand that's what this episode is about, and um, take care of yourself. If you're listening and you need to step away, that's fine. But again, I often say that I personally I share a lot about my past. I share my story so someone else can overcome theirs. And so I
Mm.
think that's the whole point behind Voices of Resilience, is that when we hear those voices and we know that people have overcome or in the process of overcoming, how important that is,
Yeah,
and just to build community around people who are in that space is just essential for all
it
of us,
is.
you know.
Yes.
So please feel free to share. as you'd like, about your experiences, and give us a little bit of background so we understand how you got where.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. In elementary school was very hard for me because I looked different, right? So my red hair stuck out like a sore thumb, and I had a terrible haircut in third grade. My hair got cut uneven. Um, the bullying set the tone for how I viewed myself. And so at a very young age in third grade, how old are you? 8, I believe, in third grade. That's when it really set in for
Mm-hmm.
me to be, I would say, having a split sense of self, having a distorted image of myself. That there was, this split is all I can say. And before that split, my optimism, my vibrancy, my innocence, before we're broken as children, our light is shining so bright. There's no, we don't see the darkness because it's like we're pure. But when something breaks us, that's when that root sets in of that altered perception of yourself, which can do damage to the psyche, do damage to your mental health, do damage to how you view yourself, your self-esteem. I mean, so it is so crucial for children to know to love themselves. I was never taught that. I didn't see that. I had a very loving mother, but she didn't even properly love herself. She couldn't properly show me how to love myself, even though she loved me with everything in her. I mean, my mom was the most loving person I knew, but when it came to her loving her, which she was my role model, she didn't know how to do that because she was also broken as a child. So it starts early.
It does. It really does. Yeah, I can relate to that. I know that, and I've shared publicly before that my mother once said to me, because she wasn't very affectionate, I said, I asked her once, why can't you love me? And her answer was, what is love? And I don't remember anybody loving me. So what does that look like? And that was so your mother was loving. I think that you either give what you never received, you figure it
Yes.
out, or you don't.
Yep.
And your mom, it sounds like she was capable of giving you love, but it may not, it may not have been something that she experienced, but she figured it out. And
Yeah.
that's a blessing. That's good. That's really, really
Yes.
good. Yeah. Um, you describe yourself as a survivalist on a healing journey. What does
Mhm.
survival mean to you today beyond just staying alive? What does that mean?
I chose the term survivalist because I think I have mastered a few situations of being able to survive.
Mm-hmm.
I can say back to childhood. I mean, surviving, the bullying, the SA,
Mm-hmm.
if abuse,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, and the distortion of my self image did a lot of damage to how I saw myself. And upon entering middle school, I would say I was already really um, separate from who I really am. So the
Okay.
separation of self, the separation of me, who I really am, happened. And then I was an at risk youth. I ran away from home. I was a self harmer. I was in a psychiatric hospital. I was actually in juvenile hall. So I was reckless. My behavior, because I don't think I knew how to process anything, right? So all I could do was act out because of the accumulation that bullying really does have on the brain, the effects of bullying. And that being my first experience with my peers,
Yeah.
and so it just, there's, an accumulation buildup that happens. And I think once you hit middle school, you see where are you at mentally. And for me, I was not mentally well. So I began seeing a psychiatrist, psychologist, all the doctors, my mom trying to help me, therapists. And thank God she did that, because I was almost put in a group home because my behavior was so bad, and I wasn't doing well in school. So all of these things, eventually going to juvenile hall put me on probation. So I couldn't act up anywhere. Otherwise they'd put me right back in juvenile hall. So I got my act together a little bit. And like I said, the poetry, when I started to examine myself, that in my early 20s, I started to ask myself, why do I do the things I've done? Like, why do I act this way? What's wrong with what is the root cause of this? And I began to get to know me. And so for me, that was the moment where doors opened within my own self of discovering myself, of self-discovery. So surviving up until that point, it was just a fight or flight. I would say fight or flight became something I was used to, even in the last 3 years. I would say I was still fighting that. But survivalist, to me, to get back to your question, because I'm kind of going on a tangent.
You're fine.
I wrote it down because I thought, that's interesting. I mean, what does it mean to me? It means I survived, but I no longer need to operate from a survival, fight or flight state of mind. I have learned from that state, and I am a survivalist instead of being in survival mode. So it's kind of like,
I like it.
Survivalist is like, well, I can master surviving. I don't have to be in survival mode anymore. That is the difference for me, because all my life, up until the last couple of years, I would say I was in survival mode and I didn't know. And my nervous system was shook. And now that I am learning about the brain and the nervous system and being able to master these things and mastering survival mode, you are then a survivalist. You have graduated.
I like it. I like it. That makes a lot of sense. It definitely encapsulates exactly what you're saying. When I think of you, I think of someone who's very creative. I don't know. I see you as creative even beyond singing. I just believe that you're someone who can, you bring a lot of beauty. And I look at the background in your videos and things like that, and I just see so much more.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's uplifting. And it's even beyond your voice. And I think that you are the creative mind behind that. So how does that help you? How does that being creative, how does that feed into and help you as a survivalist?
It helps me so much. I mean, and I love beauty. I am inspired by photography, videography. I mean, I have it. That's another thing I love. I mean, I want to explore more because I think I have an eye, and I'm inspired by it. I mean, I love capturing sunsets. And the thing about Arizona, which I'm no longer there, I loved going to the sunsets, the mountains, like the cactus, and capturing that natural beauty for me is just so, I mean, it's just, there's nothing like it. And now I'm here in Florida where I'm capturing the ocean and the palm trees here and the green and the beauty that's everywhere, and different places offer different unique beauty. So it's a part of my life. I mean, it helps my healing just to enjoy a sunrise, enjoy a sunset, and reflect and take it in, because we shouldn't take it for granted. It's really a gift to witness. And I try to remind myself, these eyes, me being able to see, is a gift. I mean,
absolutely.
I have met blind people in my life that have moved me to tears because they have a vision that I couldn't even comprehend, closing my eyes but yet they still see on a different level, but they're not able to see like you and I. I mean, so I just really try.
Yeah, that makes sense. Especially when you think about famous musicians that have made, I mean, oh my God, it's incredible how you may have a deficit in one area and yet so much strength in the other,
Yes.
and that the beauty is able to surface in other ways. So I
Yes.
totally get that. You've done something actually when you were in Arizona that I hadn't done, is that you went to that sunflower field. um
Oh,
that
yes.
was amazing. Just
I loved that. And then and when it blooms, you should go, but wear mosquito repellent because I
Oh,
didn't learn
okay,
my
good to know.
I didn't know the first time I got bit up so bad. Oh my God. But I went back with with repellent.
Okay.
But oh man, that is a beautiful, amazing, once in a lifetime experience that I was able to capture. And Niall, my son, your former student, was my videographer. And so that is so special for me that my art and my passions I get to share with my son. And
Yes.
even if he kind of acts like he doesn't like doing it for me, I know deep down inside he thinks it's cool that he's
Yeah.
helping his
Well,
mom.
he does a great job. He does a great
Yeah.
job. I didn't realize that. He does a
He
great
has an
job.
eye as well. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me, the artistic creative gene is there, and Niall has it as well. My son, visually for him, he was drawing as a young child, and I
Oh,
also
yeah.
draw. So I
Mhm.
don't consistently draw, but that's been a visual art that I've explored,
Mhm.
as well as singing, as well as poetry writing and photography, videography. Those
Mhm.
are all really healing. I mean, anything creative is going to help you heal. I think it's just
I
making it a
agree.
part of your life, including it. And I intentionally do things now to get myself out of my own head and go, wait a minute. Okay, I'm doing the rumination thing. I'm falling into a funk, or I got to do something to feel better. What can I do? Because we
Absolutely.
have to parent ourselves. We have to reteach ourselves, like, hey, this is a destructive behavior to myself. I need to do something that's going to help benefit me and make me feel better and help my self esteem. So, those are
Mhm.
things now I intentionally do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And as you know, I'm big on writing. And so for me, writing is a
Mm,
healing modality. Absolutely.
yes.
I agree with you. I think whenever you can go within, reflect, and exercise those types of gifts, it distracts you in a healthy way
Yes.
from the things that are not good for you. So I
Absolutely.
totally agree with you. I was thinking as you were talking about um, some of the things that you experienced as a young person, and how you ended up where you ended up, and the behaviors and all of that stuff. And I'm no stranger to that because I'm a teacher, obviously, and I see kids all the time
Mm,
that I know are experiencing something, or they've been affected by something that is causing them to act out. Um,
yes.
you transitioned at some point. I mean, obviously, you're a responsible adult now. You're a mom, um, as responsible as we can be.
Yeah.
We still have some things in us that make us act out a little bit, but but
I'm
for
doing
the
good so far out here.
yeah.
I haven't gone to Miami.
Oh,
I'm not going partying.
there you go. There you go. Good
Well,
for you. Although I love.
those days are over for
And
me.
Miami is a fun place to visit, but don't stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that for sure. I used to travel there on business. It's cool. Anyway, I guess where I'm headed is, when did you know? When was the transition to where now I'm like, I see things differently, and it's not quite. I'm not. You started doing better. Do you know when that happened?
So, earlier when I was talking about being a survivalist and I was going through the timeline of my life, I got to my early 20s. I was kind of trying to explain how I survived up until that point. But so at age 20, I got in a relationship while I was doing the poetry. And so I went a different direction. Now I'm in a relationship. Now I'm focused on a person outside of me. Now I'm not feeding me, I'm feeding someone outside of me, which is another thing I learned growing up. My mom did this. My mom catered to men. She would bring men into the home. Some of them were not safe.
Right.
And she was, unfortunately, she made mistakes. We all do, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
So the men that she brought around us were not high quality men. They were not safe. So I was doing the same thing. I was dating people that were unsafe. I would say when I got out of that relationship that I was in at 20 years old and I got back to me, it was devastating because that was my first, I felt it was my first true love. But then, you know, after the heartbreak and the initial healing I went through, and I turned 21. So then I went a little haywire. I you know, was partying and being reckless. So when it was literally the day after my 21st birthday that I said, I can't do this. Who am I? I sat with myself and said, this is not me. I'm not this person using drugs and alcohol. I'm not there's more to me. What am I doing to myself? And it was almost like my conscience inside was like, this is wrong. You know, this is not your path. You're not supposed to go this way. So I went into reflection mode for a full year at 21 years old. And I was celibate and I didn't date. And that was when Aria, who I call myself, became who I am. I am actually, my birth name is Maria.
Ah, okay.
So my mother named me Maria. I am Maria. That is my government given name on my birth certificate. But Aria became who I identified myself with as creating who I want to be, because who I was before that was, I didn't know who I was. So I needed some sort of claiming my own identity and feeling like I can choose who I want to be now. So that year of reflection really set the tone for what was to come after that. Because when I turned 22, I moved to Sacramento, California. I was performing on a regular basis. And at that time, this was before smartphones. So it was a very organic energy that was so alive and beautiful, because there wasn't the internet like it is now. Social media hadn't taken over. So the art was just everything. It was alive and it was just thriving. And I was living, breathing art. I mean, that's what I was doing. I started working for nonprofits in Sacramento. I started performing and providing workshops, creative workshops with youth. I worked for a homeless youth shelter. I met KRS-One, who I later did a song with. Because he came to our shelter and spoke to the youth, because he was once homeless himself. So I started doing really positive things in the community. And at 24, I met, before 24, actually, I think I was 23, I met my son's father. I had gone to Cuba with him. I was in a band. Like I said, I was thriving musically, artistically, my jobs. I had 3 jobs with 3 different organizations. I worked for Sacramento Area Youth Speaks, a poetry organization. And I became pregnant with Niles. So things shifted. But I would say that I became a healthier person. I recognized who I wanted to be at 21. I mean, that's an amazing accomplishment, because I stopped partying. I stopped doing the things everyone outside that was doing around me. And I decided to go within. So that I planted a seed within myself to become someone different. And then I was becoming that. And then doors were opening. I mean, I was going to go on the road with KRS-One. His wife and I were going to collaborate. I was going to learn the ins and outs of the music business, but I became pregnant. And so that is when my journey took a left. Like it just, because that's when I realized I really didn't have any friends. I took on the journey of single motherhood, and that shifted my reality into survival, like serious survival mode. So this is now all of a sudden I'm a single mother. I move out of Sacramento. I have my own place. I live in Vallejo, California now. And I have an infant that I'm taking care of, a young Black man that I am raising by myself. So I am struggling to I'm grabbing for straws to get some community support. I'm trying to get help, because my mental took a turn for the worst. I mean, I went through a very dark time in 2012, I would say, with depression. And, looking back at the life that I was living, and it was in the blink of an eye, 25, I was a mother. I mean, and I wasn't ready. My brain had barely, finished developing at 25.
Right.
So the reality that I was faced with, lack of family support, which was unfortunate. I mean, Niall and I have been on our own for quite some time. It's just been him and I. We're like orphans, right? But we're together. And I try to explain to him now, Niall, I'm sorry that we don't have enough support. I'm sorry that we've struggled, but it's never too late. We're going to find our tribe and we're going to thrive. And I can say now, moving to Florida, that right off the bat, the resources are way better than I had in Arizona. I mean, things are moving quickly and I'm moving along. I'm not allowing myself to get in a rut because I got to keep going. And so, for me, artistry, performing my music, I was able to get back to it when I moved to Arizona. But before that, I was in an abusive relationship for 4 years. So I would say I had somewhat of a addiction to being abused. I didn't understand it until now. I've been single 2.5 years now. When I made the mistake of the last relationship I was in, I had to really look at myself and go, wow, okay, what's going on? Because why would you want to be with this type of person? What attracted you to abuse, right? So there's something still not healed for me to want to be in that type of dynamic. And now that my mother has passed, I have even more, there is a drive within me to never make that mistake again. And what I would like to do is eventually help young women, because young girls are so vulnerable. I mean, I can open my phone and see another young 14, 15-year-old girl that has been murdered, if that's okay to say that has been unalived. And it's heartbreaking, because if we as women just understand, and young women, to love and honor ourselves and to wait, let's just wait. Like Janet Jackson's song, Let's Wait a While. I mean, it's the programming, it's the pushing the agenda on young women to grow up so fast. And,
you better believe it.
Thing. I mean, I wasn't ready to become a mother, right? And I did it, and I went down a whirlwind path by myself, and thankfully I made it out of that time, because mentally I was not okay raising my son as a young baby and having nobody. And that was like the point where I realized, wow, okay, I can either sink or swim. And I gotta swim. So,
which kudos to you that you recognize that you had to swim, because so many don't recognize that and they continue destructive behaviors. And I also want to point out that I am no stranger to what you're saying in terms of repeating patterns. I did the same thing.
Yes.
I think it's more common than people realize. We gravitate to what we're familiar with. That's what we know. That's what and oftentimes, I don't know about you, but I had a series of stepfathers and also experienced the same sort of abuse. And I realized that the men that I picked were similar to that stepfather. Well, I had more than one, but there was one particular stepfather who was in my formative years when I was very young, who wasn't abusive to me, but he was abusive to my mother. I found that same man and married him, same type of thing, in that I recognized the behaviors and the patterns. And I look back on it now, like you, I ask myself questions like, what were you thinking? Why were you, such a ride or die chick? And I don't want to die. Like, I don't get that. But
I know. Trust me.
At this stage in my life, ride or die does not mean the same thing it might have meant when I was 27. You know what I mean? Like, no, there's nothing sexy about riding or dying right now, So I get it. And I think for our listeners, I think young women especially have to understand that, you're going to gravitate to what you feel is um, attractive, for lack of a better or more appropriate term.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes it's the risky, it's the you feel like you got a ride or die type thing. And in
Yeah.
essence, it's attractive, but it's attractive for all the wrong reasons. And
Yes.
it's attractive because you're pleasing them and not yourself. And
Right.
that's what I had to figure that out as well. Um, I believe when you're a mom, and I also experienced being a mother of a son. You and I have that in common.
Yeah.
Um, it's like, where's the what are you showing them? And that's something that you wake up to that. What are you showing them? What are they seeing? What's the example for them? And so you start asking yourself the right questions over time, and it sounds like that's exactly what you did.
Yeah.
But
And I mean, I've made mistakes.
yeah, of course,
When
we all have. Yeah.
when Niall was an infant, I mean, my mental health was very destructive, and I went through a period of, back to the destructive behavior. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have my mom. My
Mm-hmm.
mom had a habit of bringing in unhealthy men, and so at that
Mm-hmm.
time, when my son was 4 months old, she had moved someone in off the street, and so I needed a mom, and I didn't have a mom to teach me to be a mom, and so I struggled because it felt like my world had ended.
Mm-hmm.
I had all these opportunities right there for me, and if I had just focused on me and focused on my journey and not romance, because romance can come later. I
Mm-hmm.
realize now what I want to share with young women is to wait.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's okay to wait. It's okay to have tunnel vision on your own journey, your future, without a partner. I mean, we live in a very, codependent type of world where people are, it's like, it's brainwashing. I mean, yesterday was Valentine's Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody who didn't have a Valentine and felt, for me, it's just a consumer holiday. I don't, celebrate it. I enjoyed the day with my son. But if I
Mm-hmm.
could go back and tell my younger self, I would have said, just wait, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I totally I think that every day as I walk the halls in my school, and I
Yeah.
see these girls that are booed up with these boys, and I'm like, oh, I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you that I know that there will be changes in their lives, and especially the boys that they pick, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow. But you can't, you know, you can cast so much of a vision for someone else, but some people are experiential. They have to learn by experiencing things.
And then
Others,
that's me.
that was me too. And that was me to a point. And then I caught on that, oh no, I need to start
Yeah.
finding better role models. Um,
Yes.
because also, my mother was abused and went through so much that I didn't know, but I did start looking at. I had friends who had healthy family relationships, healthy family units. And so I would see how they were functioning as much as I could. And I would always want that. But again, at a certain point, I made all the same choices my mom made. I followed in her
So did
path.
I.
It's so interesting. You
Yeah.
really do. And you don't even
We
see
are a
yourself
product of
growing.
our environment. I mean, that
Yes,
is pure,
yes,
it's simple. And
yeah.
now what I'm doing with my son is I am doing everything I can to make a better future for him.
Mhm,
Even moving to Arizona and meeting you,
mhm.
even though I struggled in Maricopa and it didn't turn out how I'd hoped. But I left because I don't have time to wait. Now I
Right,
don't have time to wait. It's like,
right.
well, I got to help my son. I got to be somewhere where he can have better resources and get more assistance and
Hmm.
where he can be happy. I really am putting my son first because for many years I didn't know how to put him first. Even though my mom loved us, she didn't put us first. She put men above us. And I
Hmm.
did exactly that with my son. And the
Hmm.
last relationship I was in for 4 years, nearly, mentally, I mean, I was gone. I mean, in 2021, when my brother attacked me, this was the person I was with that was there to help me heal, but made me worse. So I didn't properly heal. I had a head injury, I had a TBI, and I was being nursed by an abuser. So there's no way I can properly heal my head injury around a person that's making me worse. And I realized I have to leave this, I have to go far away because I was part of the problem. I kept going back.
Yeah.
So 4 years of a cycle, the cycle was over and over, and I was stuck in this pattern with this person. And when I finally left and I took a look at everything, I went, oh man, I have a lot of cleaning up to do in my life because, wow. Because the thing is, when you are in an abusive relationship, everything else gets left behind. I mean, everything is left. You deal with it after. You deal with the aftermath of all of this. And it's like an avalanche. And I can say for me in Arizona, it was a lot to unpack. And so I did a lot of unpacking. I started my music again. I, put out a song called Worthy, which was a self-affirmation song to myself, which I still have to remind myself, hey, you're worthy. Listen to the song you wrote. I mean, I'm talking to me.
Right.
But, I'm still, to this day, I am still working on healing those neural pathways in the brain of that false limited belief about myself. And it's still something that I am working through. And it's still an echo in the back of my mind, but I don't have to let it be in the forefront anymore. Right. So it's like, just do it anyway. Even if it's that saying, feel the fear, do it anyway, jump off the cliff. I mean, I just came to Florida. I just said, okay, I'm going to close my eyes and jump. And I did it. And it's like, I still am in shock, to be honest with you, that I'm here. And it's like, wow. But I think it's a great thing. And I'm happy I did it. I think you got to take a chance on yourself and your children. You got to do what's best for you and your children. And especially if you're a single mother, you make a decision that's going to benefit your future for you and your child. And now that I have a teenager, I mean, he needs a lot of support. I try to get his father to be more involved, and he's kind of just over the phone once in a while, unfortunately. But there's a lot of great programs out here for healthy, role models. And Niall's going to get connected out here, and I'm excited for him.
Absolutely.
And for me.
Absolutely. Talk about your mom's Cuban heritage and what you're doing about that now.
Okay, so it's interesting because I would often listen to my mom talk about her Cuban heritage and upbringing, and I was just a little girl and I wouldn't understand. I'm like, oh, okay, there wasn't really an understanding that I'm Cuban too. Like it was almost like my mom's Cuban, but I'm not. But I came from her. Yes, you are. My mom would try to teach us Spanish and we would just laugh. So she kind of gave up on trying to teach my brothers and I. We never understood the value of our Cuban heritage. We just didn't. And my mother also had a disconnect because she was a young child that got removed, from her country in a traumatic way and was put in a refugee camp. And literally where we live, I mean, there's Alligator Island here. So it's pretty, it's triggering, but I'm working through it for my mom's memory to live on, because I didn't appreciate, the culture she was trying to instill in us until now. Unfortunately, it's a little too late, but it's not too late. It's just too late for me to tell her, hey, Mom. Yeah. I mean, I think living in having white privilege, I'll be honest with you, it's, I always looked at myself and never saw myself as a Latin Cuban person. I identified as a white skinned Caucasian, which I have to check the box off, but now it's about being proud that I'm not just a white Caucasian. I'm not just the person with white privilege. I don't want to have that white privilege, but unfortunately, it's already there because of the color of my skin. Right. And the difference is I'm aware of that. And I don't wear it like a badge. I'm like, no, I'm for justice and equality.
Absolutely.
I have a black son. So for me now it's about really diving in head first and appreciating Cuban culture, appreciating my mom's journey, telling her story, becoming bilingual, which I've always wanted to do. And now I have the opportunity. I'm immersed in the culture. I'll be able to take a really awesome Spanish class here to help me practice Spanish. I mean, there's just, the possibilities are endless. The food, the culture, everything is very Cuban here. The only thing is I don't have my mom physically, but I have all her writing. I have her passport from Cuba. I have documents to provide to the museums here for her to be in the museums. I mean, that's my goal. Hey, I'm here to help my family still live on. Not just my mom, my uncle, my grandmother, my grandfather. They came as a family unit from Cuba to Florida City. And now my son and I are here. And it's interesting because Arizona is for me, right? I love I love Sedona. I love the Grand Canyon. Arizona is a special place to me forever and always will be. But when I moved there 2 years ago with my son, and I realized, wait a minute, because the first time I went to Arizona, I was 22. I hadn't become a mother. So I went on a spiritual journey in Arizona, and I felt like I found a part of my soul there. And when I moved there 2 years ago, I thought, you know what, this is not the same. It's not. You can't recreate it, So it's funny that I'm here now and I'm doing something not just for me, for my son, for my mother, for my family, my legacy, and it's powerful. It's I've only been here 10 days, so it's still really new and fresh. I'm just kind of getting acclimated. It's a transition, but I'm looking forward to mainly having a plan and following through with the plan and not letting myself backtrack or get distracted or lose sight of what I'm doing no. I am very intentional now. Why am I here? What am I doing? What's my goal? And what's my next step? So, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. So it's not, you didn't just jump off a cliff and end up in Florida. You had purpose.
Felt like it.
You had purpose. It felt like, it still feels like cliff jumping.
It was scary. It was hard. It was a hard decision to pull the trigger. I'm going to tell you, I was back and forth. I was 50-50 with it.
Whether or not to leave.
I had to make a choice. And I said, you know what? I've been here for 2 years in Maricopa. If I want to go back to Arizona, I can always go back to another place in Arizona later in life. So
yes. No, I do get that.
But I mean, Maricopa, I have to say, I can't just speak about it being, there was positive things. I met you. So I can't even be mad at Maricopa. I guess I'm a little butthurt that I couldn't, the plans I had didn't happen. That's really all it is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, my son and I were safe. Maricopa provided us safety. I got away from abuse. I got back into school. I started my music again. I met great people. For me, the city itself was a little isolating, and it just was getting to me. I didn't feel where we lived was easy access to anything. I was way in the back of El Dorado, having to drive 15 minutes to get to my house. And it just wasn't, it wasn't working anymore. And it's nothing against the city itself. I guess for me, I had high hopes. Sometimes we have expectations and they don't happen. And that was really all for me, is that I didn't feel embraced by the city there with my music, with my, message, who I am and what I want to do to help kids. So,
yeah. And I get that. And I know that you and I have had good conversation about both of us having a desire to help young people. A great deal of that has to do with us helping the inner child.
Yes.
What I know for me, being a teacher, the people that showed up in my life that really made a difference, definitely one of those people was my English language arts teacher, and I became an English language arts teacher.
Look at that.
And honestly, I had the privilege of speaking to her a few years back, and she was 85, sharp as a whip, remembered remembered my mother's name, remembered my last name, and she was she was just an amazing teacher. And every
Wow.
time I think about it, and I think most people have at least one educator in their lives that made that difference, at least one. Some have
Absolutely.
more than one. There's always, and if I can be that for one student, and I hear from students all the time. I just posted something on my Facebook the other day that I received from a student that I loved. Um, it's 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 everything to be able to
It
show
is.
up and do something, especially something that you want it done for you.
Hmm.
At that stage, you may not be able to go back to that stage in your life, but you can certainly be that lifeline for somebody else. And so I appreciate that you work with that you desire and that you do work with youth and you have served in that capacity. And
Yes, I have.
I hope to collaborate with you in the future.
I do
Um,
too.
Even with you being in Florida, we can make it happen. That's the
Yes,
beautiful thing about technology, right? Look, you and I are talking right now. You're in Florida.
exactly. Yeah.
But it's I just want to touch on a couple more things because boy, that hour rolls around so fast. You said that as long as you remain honest and forgiving with yourself, you can achieve your dreams. What does self-forgiveness look like in practice for you?
It's loving yourself even on bad days. Even when you don't feel good inside, when I have an ugly day with myself where I don't feel like I'm on my own side or I'm struggling in my own mind, I'm struggling looking in the mirror, I'm struggling getting up out of bed, whatever it is, loving myself softly and gently saying, I know you're not feeling well, but you got to get up. I know you don't want to do this, but it's going to benefit you. Look, what I learned from Maricopa, the mistakes I made in Maricopa, letting things get to me or days where I shut down, I'm learning not to do that here. I'm not bringing that here. I'm going, okay, that result that from shutting down or bed rotting and being depressed all day, did that really help you? No, and it's not helping your son. You're showing your son you shut down to deal with a problem. That's not helping. So
Mhm.
I have the ability to just be honest with myself, forgive myself for even having a bad day, right? Or if I do need to just lay down, it's okay to have a day, but to not let it continue on and become a habit. So, and many days, I'll be honest with you, I struggled in Maricopa. I was in group therapy. I had a therapist, but there were days I felt like, man, I don't have anybody to talk to here and I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
And I had to give myself grace because I left an abusive relationship of 4 years and moved to Maricopa. I had 2021, I survived a head injury. I was struggling to heal. I came to Maricopa to heal, not just
Right.
me, my son.
Mhm.
We came for safety. And so I had to look at it and go, you know what? Even if I made these mistakes, I shut down, I didn't do enough in the community, I let the community get to me. Whatever. Now I'm just honest with myself. Okay, that hurt. That thought, I don't like how it made me feel. Whatever it is, I just am honest with myself. As long as I'm honest with myself, because I know me, I know if I'm trying my hardest, if I'm doing my best, or if I'm not. If I'm not, that self discipline, of going, hey, you can do better. Your self honesty. Are you doing your best or are you just bare minimum? You know what I mean?
Right.
So for
Yeah.
me, that's really what's helping me now is having a why,
Mhm.
why am I here? Why am I here in Florida? Okay. What can I do to make the most of it and how can I make a difference in my life and my son's life and other lives, right?
Mhm. Well, you're
So,
doing that right now. Sharing your
thank you.
story is making a difference. You're courageous, and,
Thank
and
you.
and this is so. This is. I know it's not easy to like expose yourself in this way, but at the same time, it's your heart that wants to do it because you want to help, like you said, maybe there's a girl that will see this. This will be out there and in perpetuity. It'll be out here forever, right? And
Yeah.
somebody, may not be today, it could be tomorrow, but someone is going to listen to this interview and you're going to make a difference. They're going to look at you and say, wow, she did it, or she's doing it. We're all
Mhm.
we're all in stages of becoming. Nobody
Right.
has arrived. No one's arrived. I
Absolutely.
get, and I guess when I realized that,
Mhm.
speaking of giving yourself grace, when I realized that I am more about becoming, and that means the journey is meant to be taken. I'm okay. It's
Yeah.
when you sit down and you stop is when that's a problem. But if you
Yes.
keep going, when you keep going, you're going to learn and you're going to make a difference. And I love that you are doing that. You mentioned studying neuroscience, and I mentioned it in the intro, so I want to cover
Yeah.
that. Talk to me about that plan to study neuroscience and aging.
I'm really excited to do that here. They have a 1 year certificate. Actually, it's mental health, neuroscience, and aging. And I mean, I can't wait. The semester already started here, otherwise I'd be in school. But that's why I'm anxious to get busy here because I don't want to let myself, get too comfortable. I gotta stay busy. But in the meantime, I can practice Spanish, work on my art, work on my mom's legacy. But that is really, I mean, it's imperative for me to really be able to conquer my own mental health struggles, right? And maybe not conquer, but maybe have a better hold on it. An understanding of how the brain works. That really helps me when I understand how
Absolutely.
something, why something's broken, how to fix it.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
I
yeah,
understand the science behind things, it
yeah.
makes it so it's not so narrow. All of a
Right,
sudden it broadens it, like, wait a minute, there's so many reasons why this is happening. It's not just one, it's a response, it's a reaction, and so
mhm,
I'm very excited to start studying that and be able to work on that. And then also, I'll be doing a domestic violence training course, domestic violence awareness training course,
oh, nice.
because I am a survivor of domestic violence myself,
Right,
and I want to help women because after what I've been through, my son has had to go through. It's something that I really feel it's a part of my journey to give back in that way, because I have left the abuse. I have freed myself, and
right,
anyone can do
right.
it. And
You did
so,
it.
and learning
Absolutely.
to no longer desire or crave or want, it's almost like it never even was there.
Right.
I am in a bubble right now where I don't have a desire to date. I don't have a desire for connection right now because I'm still recalibrating me. I'm
Right.
still, in the middle of reconstructing who I am. So,
Absolutely. No, I get that. That is extremely powerful. Um, my last question is, so take a moment if you need to, but for
okay.
someone listening who feels stuck in trauma, grief, or low self worth, what would you say to remind them that their story is not over?
Hmm. I would say, even in that darkest place, there is beauty in the darkness. If you can embrace yourself right where you are, and give yourself a hug, not just a physical hug. I'm saying like a to be there for yourself, especially if you have no one to understand. Like, I understand loneliness and I understand isolation and all of that and alienation. But if you are alone and you feel stuck, it's not the end. And there's a new beginning right around the corner. And if you can just console yourself, that's the word I was looking for.
Right.
If you can console yourself there, and you rise up out of it, you're gonna see a whole new light within. So
Okay. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And our listeners probably picked up on so many different things that you shared today. Aria, I want to thank you
Thank you
for
for having me.
your vulnerability, for your honesty. I really, really appreciate it. And you'll be back, I'm sure. Meanwhile, hang on. Do not
Okay.
don't leave.
Okay.
For our listeners, I want to make sure that if you listen, that you like, that you share, that you subscribe wherever you are seeing this. It's live streamed on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitch, YouTube. It's all over the place. So lots of eyes on it. But like, share, subscribe, do all those wonderful things. And Aria, just hang in there. Thank you so much. And again, people will follow up, I'm sure, and we'll stay in touch. And there'll be more for you. You know, more people to. We've shared your I'm pretty sure we've shared your YouTube
Oh,
contacts. I
thank
think
you.
that's what I have in the notes. So anyone want to reach out to you, they certainly can. Check out your music and all of the beauty that you've
Thank
put
you.
out there into the earth. But thank you again. I so appreciate it. So
Thank you.
hang on, okay?
Okay.
All right. So this is it.
Bye.